Hi guys, so it's been a hot minute since I last made a video, maybe like a hot year and a half, 2 years. I just graduated, well I didn't just graduate actually, I graduated in 2018 in the summer from UCL with a degree in English literature, and I thought I would talk about my experiences there over the course of 3 years, everything I learned, everything I did, everything I regret, and hopefully it'll be of some use to someone, or it might be interesting for someone else to know what it's like at UCL, what it's like doing English, or just what it's like being a student. Sit back, relax, enjoy. This may take a while. I studied English literature, history and art and design. And in year 12 I was lucky enough, I worked really hard to be fair for my ASs, and I was predicted 2 A stars and an A, which was great for me because it meant I could apply to some really great institutions. When I first applied to uni, and I say first applied because I have applied twice because I did drop out the first time, but I'll get to that. When I first applied to uni, I applied to UCL, King's, Oxford, Exeter and Bristol. All 5 of my choices were like Russell Group or Oxbridge, so they were like top tier universities, and yeah, I was maybe like being a bit too ambitious, I don't know, but I just thought whatever, I'll just go for it. Worst case, I'll apply again next year if I don't get in anywhere. Went in on a results day. I was relatively confident but still a little anxious. Found out I had got into UCL, which is my university of choice, and came out with 3 A stars, which I was so ecstatic about. I had worked so hard during my A-levels, zombied out, just studying all the time, so I was really glad when I got my results. And yeah, I chose English at UCL because I know that UCL has a really great filmmaking kind of history, obviously Christopher Nolan, and it has a really great English department. It's like one of the best in the country, I guess, bar like Oxford, which I didn't get into. Yeah, that's a thing. I'll talk about that as well. So when I was at school, I actually originally wanted to study art and design, or specifically animation, but I was kind of pushed to do something more academic. And I was kind of pushed towards Oxbridge, and we had this kind of mentality that this was kind of the sort of be all and end all, and it's hard even if it's not really what you want, you just kind of feel that way when you're in that kind of community. And I didn't get in because naturally I just wasn't good enough. It kind of left me quite shook, and so when I went to UCL I was still a bit, I had all these feelings and I was like definitely not ready, and it came to fruition because I lasted about 5 days into my freshers before I dropped out and took a gap year. It just pays to maybe be a bit more sure before you go to university. So I took a gap year. That's me reapplying to university. I did actually reapply Cambridge, and I managed to get myself an interview, but then I didn't get in. It took me a long time to like get over that. Even though when I actually did go to uni, I realised that academia wasn't really my forte, but I guess when you just get into that headspace, it becomes more than it really is. My gap year was really great for me anyway, just because when I'd first come to uni I just hadn't had a lot of experience. So going and taking a gap year, getting a job, saving money, travelling around the world. Okay, travelling around Western Europe. I made a film, I worked for a production company, and I just kind of, it sounds really corny, but I did grow a bit as a person. I learnt to be more independent. I reapplied to UCL and luckily they took me back, which I'm really grateful for. I know that a lot of parents are kind of very sort of resistant to gap years because they're like, oh, you're wasting a year, but like this is such a great slot, like you've just done 7 years at school, like sometimes you just need a break. Okay, so my first year at university, the second time round, was a much better experience. Immediately I was just way more confident. During my gap year I'd like kind of become more acquainted with the idea of meeting new people and constantly being tossed into kind of unusual and alien environments. My halls were kind of crappy, but I did have a really good corridor and I made friends instantly.
Yo, I'm gonna be famous! It's me! This is the most I love Hannah. Guess who I am! I
I don't know if it's because I'm lazy, it's probably because because I'm lazy. But I made friends with people in my corridor and I ended up living with them for the next 2 years. Ended up living with the girl who lived next to me.
Hannah, leave me alone. You want some milk? Yeah.
Hi, Common. So yeah, that was the beginning of my first year. I had great fun. London is an amazing place to have your freshers. There's so much to do. There's so many cool places to go out, and I took advantage of everything. I pretty much went out all the time and had a good group of people to do it with. Because I did English, we had very limited contact hours, so I kind of spent a lot of time just kind of sitting around and not doing as much as I probably should have. At UCL we have a thing where we have to basically submit a 3,000-word essay every week and a half essentially, which sounds really daunting, but the essays don't really count to like a significant portion of our grade. It's more for personal development. And but I was very lax on a lot of these essays. I think I'd just kind of grown tiresome of just studying, and I used to do my essays like the day they were due. Sometimes I would do them the day before. It's really bad, and probably I shouldn't be saying this because I'm definitely incriminating myself. That happened. I guess I was still in this kind of weird mindset where I was a bit like, oh, I'm not even sure if I wanted to be doing English. I wanted to do something more creative. During first year, I guess there's so much freedom in terms of living by yourself, controlling your own diet and stuff. So there was a few issues in terms of body image. It was a weird time for me, and I remember in first year, I think there was a 4-month kind of period where I was things were a bit all over the place in terms of kind of your mental health and whatever. I guess that can happen if you don't keep control of things. I had not always really wanted to truly do English. I had wanted to do something more creative, and sometimes I found that kind of almost like being in this environment exacerbated this mild kind of resentment with people who really loved what they were doing. And not to say I didn't really enjoy doing English, but there were times where I was like, oh, I wish I wasn't doing something so academic. And I found that I definitely wasn't top of the class. I mean, I got to UCL, I found I was profoundly average in comparison, because obviously everyone is really good. It was a bit unsettling for me at first, but I got used to it, and I learned to get on with it basically. Second year, things got a little different for me, particularly in terms of my weekly essays that I was doing. I decided to start putting in a bit more effort, and honestly, it really is the case. You do get what you put into it. I started really wanting to do well in my essays. I started taking a couple of days rather than the night before, or a couple of hours to do them, and it did pay off. I learned so much more about different critical theories, different ways of thinking. I developed a better kind of sense of nuance in my arguments and my understanding of literary work. So uni work, I had decided to put more effort in. I probably wasn't putting in enough as my classmates were. I'm just really lazy. I had 2 exams that counted towards my final grade. At UCL you have 6-hour exams. We have a 3-hour period of writing, and then like you have a half an hour break. Sometimes people do a 10-minute break. They go back and they have another 3 hours of writing, which sounds absolutely fucking mad when you think about it. Usually you run out of time. Yeah, that's the case. So I had a 6-hour exam about Chaucer, and then I had an exam about literature about London. This is one of my chosen modules. Third year was crazy. I think I'd saved it all for that last year. I realised I was graduating. Fuck, like fuck. Being like panicking, and I had like all these exams, and I hadn't done enough with the societies. When I first came to university, I had this kind of weird dream, I guess, in my head that I would meet my filmmaking partner at uni. Not like partner in the romantic sense, but I thought maybe I would meet kind of someone who I would constantly be working with throughout my career or whatever. And to be fair, I have met some amazing people working with Film Society, and hopefully I will work with them again. But I wish I'd maybe kind of laid that foundation earlier in first year, because when I got into Film Society, I realised that there was this whole community and all these friendships developing since first year that I hadn't really been involved in. UCL has a great kind of film society, filmmaking community, and every term they give the society £1,000 budget to make a short film, and you can audition to be a director, writer and producer. And I had actually waited before I applied because I wanted to see what script would come through, and it was a script about a group of mourners who are actually all actors, and it was a sort of dark comedy, and I thought, wow, this is really my thing. I love Tim Burton, he's like my directing icon, so I was like, yes, this is mine, I'm gonna do it. So I went in all guns blazing. I had mood boards, I had story ideas, I had everything. That period was one of the most stressful experiences of my life, and it was also one of the most rewarding. I loved working on set with people, I loved the kind of collaborative process, I loved doing something creative, and all I could think of was, oh my god, Hannah, why did you not start this sooner? Third year was quite intense academically because obviously we had quite a really easy time in first and second year with like very minimal exams. Third year came and it was like boom, 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 exams, 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 stress, and there was exams, and it was more stress. I was in the library just every single day. In our third year, 2 6-hour exams, which were very, very draining. I used to do quite well in film essays, so that's what I kind of did for my dissertation. It was that, and actually some Victorian literature, which I really did like. Literature about prostitutes and villains and criminals and beggars and poverty, and I did leave it quite last minute, so again there was stress in the sense that I was like, oh my god, I don't have much time to do this, why didn't I start earlier? Basically the mantra of my entire degree. When results came, I had passed, I'd got my 2-1, I graduated from UCL, which I was extremely proud of. My results were, I feel, quite average. I hadn't done particularly well, I hadn't done particularly badly either. I was good enough, I guess, but I wasn't the best, which I kind of accepted at this point. That was my university experience. There were some high points, there were some low points, there were some average points, there was some regrets. I left feeling a lot more aware of the world, of the people around me, of the kind of stories that make up our lives. Good luck if you're applying to university. I'm sure wherever you go, it's usually the case with any experience, it's what you make out of it, it's what you put in. And if you put in, you'll get a lot out of it. So good luck, I'm sure it'll be great.